Judge Kang Bit-na was brutally murdered in the park. Her soul left her body, and a path of blood-red flowers spread beneath her feet. She followed the path that led to the gates of hell, which opened for her. Despite being meant for the false hell, a glitch in the sinner categorization system sent her to the murderer's hell, where only the most unforgivable and unrepentant reside. The judge there, Justicia, marks the foreheads of murderers, sentencing them to the harshest punishments. This sight terrified the newly arrived Kang Bit-na. The assistant was puzzled as Kang Bit-na's name wasn't on the list, but Justicia, stubborn, treated her as a murderer. Despite the assistant's protests, Justicia seized the sword of judgment and stamped the guilty mark on Kang Bit-na, who vanished instantly. Moments later, Kang Bit-na found herself in a sea of flowers. Attracted to the scenery, she reached for a flower, but its center turned into a blood-red eye. Horrified, she saw these terrifying eyes everywhere. Before she could react, she saw a strange door, which sucked her in. She arrived at the Valley of Tender Hell, a place for serving long sentences. Here, Kang Bit-na was sentenced to 70,000 years. Monsters repeatedly hit the elevator, frightening her into fleeing. After turning several corners and pausing to breathe, a strange black mist appeared behind her. The monster could teleport and was incredibly fast, giving her no chance to escape. Fortunately, the narrow corridor trapped the monster's horns, preventing it from reaching Kang Bit-na. Kang Bit-na seized the opportunity to remove her shoes and thrust them fiercely into the monster's eyes. As the monster closed in, escape was impossible. At this critical moment, the door suddenly opened, flooding the area with blinding light. The monster vanished instantly upon contact with this force. Subsequently, Hell's chief executive, Baal, confronted Justicia, rebuking her irresponsibility for nearly condemning an innocent person to an irredeemable fate. Justicia insisted that a judge's role was solely to make decisions, not to entertain claims of innocence. This infuriated Baal, who immediately sentenced Justicia to go to the human world to judge 10 unrepentant murderers, claim their lives, and send them to hell within 1 year using Kang Bit-na's identity, or face death. Justicia attempted to resist, but was swiftly impaled by a spider's claw, making it clear that Baal was serious. Reluctantly, Justicia complied. Meanwhile, a demon approached the brutally murdered woman in the park, transforming into smoke and entering her body, thus reaching the human world in her form. When she claimed to be a demon from hell, the doctors diagnosed her with delusions. Unperturbed, Kang Bit-na, still a judge, appeared in court where the defendant was a police officer. He had subdued a fleeing suspect who suddenly pulled a knife. Officer Han Da-on had kicked the knife away and easily pinned the suspect against the wall. After the suspect was fined and released, he unexpectedly sued Officer Han Da-on, claiming that Han had injured his hand when kicking the knife away. Kang Bit-na immediately knew the man was just causing trouble. As a demon, she wasn't one to cater to such antics. Upon hearing that the victim couldn't eat because of the injury, she erupted in court saying he should just starve to death instead of suing. This shocked everyone present. However, Kang Bit-na didn't hold back. She further confronted the victim's prosecutor, questioning if the police were supposed to be invulnerable. She argued, should they have politely asked for the knife instead of kicking it? The prosecutor was infuriated by her remarks, chastising her for extreme rudeness. Kang Bit-na bluntly revealed that the criminal was a chaebol heir, openly clashing with him. Han Da-on was acquitted and tried to thank Kang Bit-na, but she was uninterested in being thanked for defending someone wrongfully accused. Later, Kang Bit-na went to a church and found Cha Min-jong praying there. It turned out she had been suffering from her husband's domestic abuse, often covered in bruises, yet she didn't want him punished. Kang Bit-na sensed something odd and urged her to tell the truth. However, Cha Min-jong was ungrateful and even called the police to accuse Kang Bit-na of harassment. When questioned by the police, Kang Bit-na stated she was a judge but didn't have her ID on her. While searching for her ID, she accidentally spilled her bag, and her diagnosis of delusional disorder fell out, leaving her unable to defend herself. She was taken to the police station, where Han Da-on was the officer in charge, clearing up the misunderstanding. At the trial the next day, Cha Min-jong's wounds were starkly visible, yet the abuser appeared very remorseful. He explained that he deeply loves his wife, but unconsciously hits her during arguments and threatens to kill her, claiming it's because he loves her so much he wants to die with her. These absurd statements amused Kang Bit-na. The prosecution requested a 1-year prison sentence for the domestic abuser, but the final verdict was pending. After the hearing, the abuser approached Cha Min-jong's parents and repeatedly apologized for his actions. This unexpected behavior shocked Han Da-on, who realized the man's courtroom promises were empty. Concerned he would reoffend if released, Han Da-on immediately informed Kang Bit-na about the abuser mocking Cha Min-jong's parents, urging her to ensure strict punishment. Kang Bit-na then spoke with Cha Min-jong's parents and learned that Cha Min-jong had submitted a non-punishment agreement out of fear. Kang Bit-na, a demon judge from hell, unexpectedly waived 2 years of his sentence and acquitted him on the spot. This decision instantly sparked widespread dissatisfaction. The abuser thanked Kang Bit-na repeatedly, unaware that he had become the prey of a demon. The most disappointed was Han Da-on, a police officer aware that the unreformed abuser would likely continue his violent behavior. He confronted Kang Bit-na for an explanation, but she stated everything was done legally without further clarification. Frustrated, Han Da-on decided to take matters into his own hands. The moment he handed the abuser a block of tofu, he threw it on the ground and warned him not to approach Cha Min-jong again, or he wouldn't let him off easily. The abuser agreed outwardly, but as soon as Han Da-on left, he reverted to his true nature and decided to take his anger out on his girlfriend. After learning that the abusive man was acquitted, Cha Min-jong hid in her room trembling. She blamed her parents for calling the police, feeling they had put her in greater danger. She feared certain death if the abuser returned. Han Da-on comforted her, assuring her not to worry, and gave her a smartwatch with an SOS button to press if she needed immediate help. Despite this, Cha Min-jong remained fearful and sleepless. In the following days, Han Da-on frequently checked on her. After several anxious days, Cha Min-jong finally felt relieved and decided to call her father to go out for some fresh air. Meanwhile, Kang Bit-na was unusually anxious, wondering why the abuser had not yet acted. She then used a mirror and her powers to write the abuser's name, causing his image to appear. He was seen holding a hammer and smiling, indicating he planned to act that night. Kang Bit-na was excited by this sight and covered the camera with tape. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Thinking it was her father, Cha Min-jong checked the monitor but saw only darkness, startling her. Remaining vigilant, Cha Min-jong asked the visitor to leave the items at the door. Once it was quiet outside, she cautiously opened the door, only to be grabbed and thrown to the ground by the abuser the next second. She tried to call for help, but the abuser quickly noticed and threw her smartwatch aside. He then brutally assaulted her. Meanwhile, Kang Bit-na, on her way, calmly checked the situation and saw that the abuser had struck. After he left, a despairing Cha Min-jong set up a stool. Preparing to leave this sorrowful world was exactly the outcome Kang Bit-na desired. She had died and come to the human world to atone. Only by eliminating 10 death row inmates could she return to hell, and the abuser was the first one she created herself. As he casually walked home, Kang Bit-na suddenly stopped him, saying she wanted to talk. Seeing that Kang Bit-na was alone, the abuser let his guard down, unaware of the danger posed by beautiful women. Her eyes emitted a purple glow as she prepared to bewitch him, but suddenly a car appeared, driven by police officer Han Da-on. He knew the abuser had beaten his girlfriend again and angrily wanted to teach him a lesson. Fortunately, Kang Bit-na stopped him in time. They then went to Cha Min-jong's house, which bore the marks of the abuser's violence. If not for Kang Bit-na having the abuser released, this tragedy might have been avoided. However, Kang Bit-na seemed indifferent. Han Da-on decided to apply for the abuser's arrest and ensure he would be imprisoned for a long time. This news gave Kang Bit-na a headache. At the police station, the abuser desperately justified his actions. Upon hearing that Cha Min-jong had attempted suicide by hanging, he became nervous. But luckily, the police discovered her in time and she was not seriously harmed. The police were powerless against this scum and could only arrange 24-hour protection for Cha Min-jong. Han Da-on also kept an eye on the abuser, making it impossible for Kang Bit-na to kill him. Soon, a judge dismissed the arrest warrant for the abuser, leaving the police frustrated. In contrast, Kang Bit-na was delighted as she finally found an opportunity to act. Han Da-on visited Cha Min-jong's home again to warn them to be extra careful and assured them of enhanced protection. As soon as he left, the abuser peeked out from the stairwell. He first smeared the surveillance camera, then pulled a hammer from his pocket. Just as he was about to strike, Cha Min-jong sent him a message to meet. The abuser, ungrateful for the message, planned to kill her parents, thinking a few months in prison was worth it. Cha Min-jong told him she couldn't leave because the police were at her house, suggesting they meet at midnight when everyone was asleep. The abuser agreed, finding her idea sensible, and decided to keep the appointment. When the moment to hunt arrived, Kang Bit-na dressed in a pink mini-skirt and applied delicate makeup. Soon the abuser arrived, initially intending to greet with his hammer, but he was shocked to see Kang Bit-na and quickly hid the hammer. The judgment from hell began. Realizing something was wrong, the abuser tried to escape. Kang Bit-na watched him with a slight smile. Following his original path, the abuser somehow ended up in a strange room decorated with eerie patterns. As he panicked, Kang Bit-na appeared from behind. The roles in the story of the abuser and Cha Min-jong were reversed, with the abuser becoming the victim. On their first date, the abuser merely said he was full, which Kang Bit-na took as ignoring her. Before he could explain, Kang Bit-na lost her temper, stuffing food into his mouth. Angry and wanting to break up, he was taken aback as Kang Bit-na suddenly knelt down, begging for forgiveness and promising not to repeat her actions. She claimed she couldn't live without him, then staged a suicide threat. Thus, the abuser was completely controlled. Unable to tolerate it any longer, he brought up breaking up again. Kang Bit-na responded with a slap. The abuser was no match for her. Terrified, he trembled as he was beaten up. But Kang Bit-na didn't stop there. Instead, she picked up a baseball bat she had prepared earlier and continued to beat him. He hid in a corner and called the police for help. But Kang Bit-na quickly caught up and soon smashed the door lock. The abuser quickly moved out, thinking he had finally escaped the nightmare. But Kang Bit-na found him again. She threatened him with a knife, warning him not to call the police again, or she would kill him. She then changed her demeanor and told him to eat quickly. The man wanted to press his emergency alert watch, but Kang Bit-na warned that if she was arrested again, they would both end up dead the next time she was released. The price for his attempt to call for help was another brutal beating. The abuser desperately pleaded for her to let him go. The more he begged, the angrier Kang Bit-na became. To prevent him from leaving, she broke his legs with a hammer. After that, he lived in hell, confining himself at home and trembling at the sound of Kang Bit-na's voice. Eventually, he could no longer endure and decided to escape this painful world for good. But then he returned to reality and fully realized his own excessive behavior, though he remained defiant. Kang Bit-na, furious, slapped him hard and revealed her demonic nature. Terrified, the abuser begged for mercy. However, when Kang Bit-na was distracted by a phone call, he seized the opportunity to attack her with a hammer. The seemingly frail Kang Bit-na was quickly overpowered. As he strangled her more forcefully, he didn't realize Kang Bit-na was only toying with him. She grabbed his hair and dragged him outside. After breaking his fingers, she brutally hammered his head. As a demon, she knew no mercy. After torturing him severely, Kang Bit-na was about to take a breath when the abuser stood up again. His struggle only excited her more, fulfilling his deserved fate. After the severe beating, the abuser could no longer resist. He knelt down, repeatedly apologizing and confessing all his crimes. The final judgment arrived when Kang Bit-na stamped his forehead, opening the gates of hell. The soul of the abuser was sucked into hell, marking her first capture. When the police found him, his body was horribly mutilated with a distinctive mark on his forehead and long drag marks in the yard. It was clear he was killed inside the house and then discarded at the front door like trash. Strangely, though the house was the crime scene, professionals could find no evidence. Unknown to them, the murderer was a demon, and the cleanup was handled by a professional team from hell. Kang Bit-na left the body at the front door to demonstrate the fate of evildoers and to observe the police's confusion over the lack of clues. The police were indeed troubled. The abuser had multiple fractures, but the key cause of death was excessive bleeding. Investigations revealed that the mark on his head was Chthonic Valley, meaning hell in ancient Greek. After complicating the investigation for the police, Kang Bit-na began searching for her next target. To find an utterly wicked criminal, she had to painstakingly review many old cases. Her assistant suggested she seek police help, but the only officer Kang Bit-na knew was Han Da-on. She had already left a bad impression on them. Then, the principal called her to his office, knowing that Kang Bit-na had just been discharged from the hospital with possible post-trauma effects. He warned her to behave appropriately and even criticized her attire and makeup, emphasizing that a judge should care about appearance. That day, as Han Da-on was about to go home, Kang Bit-na suddenly appeared, intent on finding clues to catch a criminal and return to hell. She approached him, but Han Da-on, already annoyed, did not want to engage with her. However, Kang Bit-na persisted until he agreed. Being a demon, she could easily read minds. Under her persuasive words, Han Da-on gradually lowered his guard. Kang Bit-na then brought up the main topic, asking about any difficult cases he had, but he said they were confidential and refused to share. Kang Bit-na did not give up. After getting Han Da-on drunk, she asked the same question again. This time he revealed the truth. The most wicked criminal was himself, having killed 3 people. Kang Bit-na was thrilled by this unexpected discovery, but seeing tears rolling down his face, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. When Han Da-on woke up, he found the scene had been cleaned. Kang Bit-na appeared before him, asking whether his last night's confession was due to drunkenness or sincerity. Realizing he had lost composure, he asked her to keep his secret, effectively admitting his guilt. With that, Kang Bit-na easily identified her second target and, without hesitation, stabbed him.